Good morning, dear students. Welcome back to Banner Online Classes. And today we are going to start a new chapter that is Data File Handling. Dear students, this is one of the most important chapter for your upcoming board examination. So you have to understand the concept of data file handling very carefully. So now without any further delay, let's get started. First of all, we will see what is the purpose of using files in Python. And till now, we have seen only those programs which run for a short period of time and gives some output, and after that their data is disappeared. And when we rerun those programs, we have to use new data. And why this happen? Because the data is entered or stored in the primary memory, that is RAM. So अभी तक जितने भी प्रोग्रामिंग हमने करी है, तो उन प्रोग्राम्स में क्या है कि हम प्रोग्राम्स क्रिएट करते हैं एंड प्रोग्राम को रन करते हैं, और प्रोग्राम हमसे कुछ वैल्यू पूछता है एंड उन वैल्यू को लेके प्रोग्राम एक आउटपुट जनरेट करता है। एंड जैसे ही हम उस प्रोग्राम को टर्मिनेट करेंगे और प्रोग्राम को रीरन करेंगे, तो वो जो प्रीवियस वैल्यूज और जो आउटपुट है वो क्या हो जाते हैं, डिसअपियर्ड हो जाते हैं। एंड देयर इज अ नीड इन दी प्रोग्रामिंग और इन द सॉफ्टवेयर जहाँ पर हमें उन वैल्यूज और उन आउटपुट्स को एज अ रिकॉर्ड सेव करने की रिक्वायरमेंट हो सकती है। लाइक अगर आप कोई वेबसाइट बना रहे हो और आप साइन अप कर रहे हो, तो ऐसा नहीं कि आप एक बार साइन अप करोगे सो एंड नेक्स्ट टाइम आपको फिर से साइन अप करना पड़ेगा। सो एक बार आपने साइन अप कर लिया तो आपका जो डेटा आपने दिया है उस पर्टिकुलर वेबसाइट को, वो डेटा क्या हो जाएगा, परमानेंटली स्टोर हो जाएगा। सो अभी तक हमने जितनी भी प्रोग्रामिंग की हुई है उसमें जो डेटा है वो एक टेम्पररी मेमोरी में स्टोर होता है, और जैसे ही प्रोग्राम क्लोज होता है उसी के साइड जो भी डेटा हमने एंटर किया होगा वो सारा डेटा क्या हो जाता है, आपका डिलीट हो जाता है। सो द प्रोग्राम्स विच आर persistent, their data is stored in permanent storage. If the program is closed or restarted, then the data used in previous execution will be retrieved. For this purpose, the program should have the capacity to read or write text or data files. So अब हम जो फाइल हैंडलिंग में क्या हम स्टडी करने वाले हैं कि हम अपने प्रोग्राम को क्या बनाएंगे, परसिस्टेंट बनाएंगे, सो दैट जो भी डेटा हम इंसर्ट करें वो एक परमानेंट मेमोरी में स्टोर हो। एंड इफ वी नीड दैट डेटा, सो दैट वी कैन यूज दैट डेटा लेटर ऑन। सो अगर एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन आता है व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय अ persistent program or persistent data, so that programs or their data which is stored in a permanent memory or a storage, that data is known as persistent data or program. And now we will make the programs which will store the output that you have generated by previous execution. And how we can achieve this? We can achieve this by using the read and write functions. And what do you mean by read and write function? Read means you will only view that files, you can only read that files. And what do you mean by write? Write means we can do any kind of changes or modification on that file as well if required. Now the third point in the file handling is the meaning of file IO. IO means input output, to transfer data from primary to secondary memory and vice versa. So here we will transfer our data from primary memory to secondary memory for writing purpose, and if you want to read the data, then the file will move from permanent to primary memory. So these two operations will be performed in file handling. Now we will move to our next slide and we will see why the files are used. So we use files to store data and to make our data persistent. And second point is the data is permanently stored in the system, that I have already told you that if our program is persistent, so we will save our data in our permanent storage. And third point is Python provides reading and writing capability of data files. So we read data if I only want to view that data, and if I want to do any changes or modification, so on that case we can write the data as well. Now the fourth point is we can save the data in the files with the help of future use. Okay, so here why we are doing all these things, because we want that data to store for further use. If we need that data for our future requirement, so on that case we will save that data. And the last point is what do you mean by a file? Basically, a file is a collection of characters in which we can perform read and write functions. We can also save it in a secondary memory. So what do you mean by a file? Basically, file is a collection of characters and we can apply a read and write function in our file, and we can store that file in our secondary memory as well. So this is all about the files. Now in our next slide we will see that how many data files are supported by Python. So data files are the files that store data pertaining to a specific application for later use. So what are the data files in which we are storing the data? Like we store our data in Excel, we can store our data in any Notepad or MS Word. So these files are known as data files. We can store the data in the various specific application, and basically data can be stored in two ways. So our first type is test files. So what is test files? A test file is a sequence of line. And what do you mean by line? Line is a sequence of characters, and this file is saved in a permanent storage device. Although in Python default character encoding is ASCII, but by using constant u, we can convert the ASCII data into the Unicode. Although we don't do it, we will simply do the read and write operation in our test file. In the test file, each line is terminates with a special character which is called EOL. So full form of EOL is also important for your exam purpose. The EOL stands for end of line. Particularly when we press the enter key, so basically that indicate the end of line. So these are human readable form, and these can be created using any text editor. Okay, so what are the key points in the test file? First of all, as the name suggests, it is a test file, so it contains only the characters, sequence of characters, or we can say sequence of lines. And the second point is we will create a test file in our text editor. And the third point is test file is in the form of human readable. And the fourth point is that we use EOL end of line in test file. And the fifth point and the most important point is that test file will only store the test. We cannot store any image, any audio or any video in the test file. Test file is only compatible for the test data. Okay, so I hope these points are clear to you. Now we will move to the second data file, that is binary file. And binary files are used to store binary data such as images, videos, audios, etc. Generally, numbers are stored in binary files. In binary file, there is no delimiter of end of line since they are directly in the form of binary, hence there is no need to translate them, and that's why these files are easy and fast in working. So We know the limitation of test file because we are only storing the test data. We cannot store any image, audio, video in the test file, but with the help of binary file we can achieve these things. We can store images, we can store videos, we can store audios in binary files, and we can store numbers in binary file as well. Basically what happen in test file, we can store the number, but these numbers will also a string. If you see 0 or 1 in the test file, then it will behave like a string. You cannot do any particular calculation with that data. And if you want to store any number as an integer, so for that case also we need a binary file. And unlike text file, there is no delimiter of end of line. And but the advantage of binary file is because they are already in the binary form, so we don't need to convert, because we know that the text file is in the human readable form, but binary file is in binary form. So it is difficult for the user to read that file, but because it is in the form of binary, so it is very easy for the compiler to deal with these kind of files. And these files, because it is in the form of binary, so Python interpreter will not translate that file, and it will save the time, and it is also in fast working. Okay, so this is all about the binary file. So student, till now we have covered the basic introduction, that why we need the file handling concept in Python, and we have already discussed the two basic type of file, text file and binary file. So student, that's it for today, and we will start the programming of file handling for our next video. So student, thank you and keep learning.